The Apprentice, written and read by Ken Johnson. Episode 4. Horatio stood nervously at the table in the small meeting room upstairs in the works in front of Ellis, whom he knew, Gresham, whom he had fallen 3/4 of the way in love with, and two men whom Horatio did not recognize. The one looked around mid-career age, and his name badge read Earl, Medicine. And the other was around the same age as Horatio, and his name was Dustan, Admin. Thanks for coming, he began. After a couple of weeks of number crunching, I'm in a position... I don't know everyone here, said Ellis, who knew everyone. Could we perhaps introduce ourselves? It won't take a minute. Horatio was grateful to the professor for easing the tension in the room. He realized that he had a small pile of name cards that he hadn't given out, and also that he hadn't tested the projector. I'm Professor Ellis. I'm an expert on viruses, product development. Horatio, why don't you go next? I'm Horatio. I'm the new boy, first in mathematics from St. Hubert's. He was still shaking slightly with stage fright. I've spent my first month working on sales estimates. I had a crystal ball imported specially from ancient Rome and installed in my office. Drop by if you need a weather forecast. He turned to his friend. Gresham, it's your turn. You're good at introducing yourself. A round of introductions was enough to relax Horatio a little. I should have said thank you for coming. I appreciate being trusted to produce useful results. Given a choice between being useful and being interesting, most mathematicians prefer to be interesting. The attempt at witticism warmed the audience to him. I'll start with the important results, and then I'll tell you how I got them, Horatio continued. Dates and numbers appeared on the screen behind him. It might take half an hour. Professor Ellis wrote the numbers down as Horatio continued. These are the estimated sales volumes for the next 6 months. How accurate are these numbers? Asked Falstaff. $10,000 either way, I guess. Paradoxically, the smaller numbers have the higher probability of errors than the big numbers, so you can see from the big numbers that our salaries are well provided for. The gentle laughter relaxed the meeting further. The company stays out of overdraft, and we're all on course for a massive Christmas bonus. And then there was a knock on the door. Come in. The policewoman who walked in was young and obviously bewildered by the endless steel doors and warning notices. Police. Nobody answered, but imbued with the secretiveness which is the fellow traveller of security, Horatio turned the projector off. The policewoman looked around and asked, Is there a Theodore Williams here? Horatio turned to the officer and said, That's me, officer. You're Theodore Williams. I am, but only in real life, not in here. Inside this building, I'm Horatio. She held up her identity card. I'm WPC Rayner Shaw, she said, from Dunnerbeck Police Station. I need a word with you. Can we go and talk somewhere quiet? There's a little storeroom next door, said Horatio. I think my key opens it. Gresham asked, Is everything all right? It probably is, Horatio answered, but if I end up in prison, come and visit me. The storeroom door clunked open when it saw Horatio's name badge. The room had, obviously, not been used for a while, but among the junk, Horatio found a brush and cleaned the dust off 2 wooden chairs. Horatio and WPC Shaw sat down, and he asked her the obvious question. Pardon my asking, officer, but what's this about? I can't find the stockyard, she said in a whisper, as though she were embarrassed about not being able to find it. Where's the stockyard? It was Horatio's turn to be bewildered. There isn't a stockyard. Deliveries come to the front door. There's nothing stored outside this building. At the front it faces the road, and at the back there's a little flower garden. We've had a report of a dead body in the stockyard here. Do you know anything about it? It wasn't me. Without thinking, and without any idea what Miss Shaw was talking about, Horatio added, in rapid succession, I didn't do it, I wasn't there, nobody saw me do it, you can't prove anything. Miss Shaw pretended not to be amused. Mr. Williams, you're no Bart Simpson. Sorry, but if I'd known you were coming, I'd have put the kettle on. Let's for a moment pretend that we occupy the same universe. W.P.C. Shaw had dealt with tiresome comedians before. What did you mean when you told your mother that a dead body had been taken out of the stockyard? You did say that to her. Like a wicker basket of homing pigeons, the late-night conversation with his mum came back to him. Oh, he said as realization dawned. Horatio checked that the door was shut. I didn't think she'd tell anybody. Let me rattle you a yarn. They sat and stared at each other, while Horatio wondered where to start his story. Miss Shaw broke the ice. I've never seen so many security precautions in one place, said Miss Shaw, and I've been on duty in Butte House. What on earth do you do here? I'm not allowed to talk about it. Besides, to tell the truth, I don't know. I've been here a month, and the only thing I've been allowed to do is slave over a hot calculator, a 2B pencil, and 2 books about cyclic and progressive time sequences, with occasional breaks to go to the toilet, get a cup of tea, and use the pencil sharpener. But you did tell your mother that there was something suspicious going on, and it had to do with the stockyard. I did tell her that. She'd sensed that I was worried about something, and it was something to do with work. I said someone had found a dead body in the stockyard. Truth is, I was worried about a mathematical problem that I didn't have a solution for. Why didn't you just say, I'm stressed because I can't find a solution to a maths problem? Because then I would have had to explain the problem to her, and poor soul, she thinks mathematics is borrowing and paying back when you do a takeaway sum. And the problem was what, exactly? W.P.C. Shaw produced her notebook as if to write down Horatio's answer. Fourier analysis of approximate data. It doesn't breach any secrets to say that I'm trying to predict future sales volumes from past data. Until I found a solution, the standard error of the predictions was too high by an order of magnitude, but Cooley and Tukey's method runs into trouble. It gives the wrong answers when some of the data... Oh, okay, I get the idea, said Miss Shaw, although she didn't. She put the pencil back into the clip on the notebook without writing anything. I'll tell the sergeant that there's nothing to worry about, and your mum's an old lady easily confused, and she might have dreamed the whole story. Don't worry about it. I doubt you'll hear any more of this. Pleased to hear it. Miss Shaw thought for a moment and added, "What? Just one other thing. Do all mathematicians talk like you?" No. Most of us are like the famous piece of cod that passes all understanding. Thanks for helping to ease my mum's worries. Can I do anything else to help? W.P.C. Shaw looked at her wristwatch and answered, "Yes, I've got 5 minutes if you have." I think by now the crowd has picked its things up and gone home by now. I certainly have 5 minutes. I've never understood. Miss Shaw was trying to find the words for her question. Can you show me how borrowing and paying back works when you do a takeaway sum? An hour later, Horatio arranged a new time and place to announce the expected sales volumes and he took Small-Scale Warfare from his desk and opened it somewhere near the page where he left off. Chapter 2. The Past is the Future. As Goliath learned to his cost, a stone perhaps weighing 1 pound and neither explosive nor particularly dangerous is a death-dealing weapon in the right hands. Goliath's adversary was David, armed with 5 stones, a sling, and a sharp stick. David had spent the last several years as a shepherd and was used to killing wolves by flinging stones at them from the sling. Doubtless he had also honed his skill by taking pot shots at trees, rocks, tin cans, lemonade bottles, camels, greenhouses, and policemen. Doubtless his skill was such that he could hit the head of a pin from 100 yards away. David's first slingshot knocked Goliath to the ground, and there David cut Goliath's head off with the stick. The development of more and more powerful explosives ended with the invention of the atomic bomb. The search turned instead to firing old explosives, but more precisely. It is now possible to guide a missile to number 5 Charlotte Square so accurately that the gunner can choose whether the missile should fly into the building through a window, fall down the chimney, or knock on the door and ask whether the First Minister is at home. Professor Ellis flung the door open without knocking. He looked a little panicky and he appeared to have been running. "Horatio, stop what you're doing and come with me, we need you." "Oh, first time for everything," said Horatio. Ellis glared at him. Horatio put the book down and stood up to leave. What happened? They were rushing along the back corridor. One of them survived. One of what? Horatio didn't grasp the issue. "We've had a failure. You're conducting the investigation." "I'll do my best, of course," Horatio said with unusual diffidence. "Of course you will," said Ellis. "What do you think you need?" "Well, a team of people who understand what the product does, how the product works would be a good start. Medicine, virology. Who do you want on the team?" "I don't really know anyone in the scientific team yet. I'd like to have Gresham with me. He keeps me grounded." "Apart from him, well, Gresham, good. Ask around the labs and put a team together as a matter of the utmost urgency," said Professor Ellis. "You will have all the budget you need." "Well, the first thing the team will need," Horatio scrabbled for ideas, "is all the test results of any kind relating to that patient, and results of the same tests on a collection of patients on which the product, data on a random selection of successes. Tell IT to give you database privileges, and if they piss you about, ask them to talk to me about it." "How many cases do you think you'll need?" "To find outliers with the Z test, if there are any outliers. More the merrier, but 20 ought to be enough." The electric gate at the end of the corridor opened, and Ellis ushered Horatio into the auditorium in which he had spent most of his first day at the works. "Are you carrying company ID?" "Yes, Professor. It's in my shirt pocket." "Good, because you'll need it. If you don't have it, the doors won't open, and security will appear from under a rock like a shoal of piranhas. Now, watch this. This is live video." Ellis sat down at the nearest desk and the computer lit up. He typed something and a video opened. They saw a man wearing an overcoat, carrying a bag of groceries and ambling down a shopping street. "See? That's him there. Patient 155, Jory Hodgson, aged 43. "Looks like he's out shopping," Horatio observed. "Crew member on the ferry, lives on Sandpiper Terrace. I'd love to know where he found the money for a house there." Professor Ellis continued. "The house has 4 bedrooms and a garden the size of Hampton Park. He bought it with £500,000 that he inherited from his grandparents, so choose your grandparents with care. Married to Bonnie Lee, 2 children, middle income, studied performing arts at Montrose, pollen allergy. Horatio stared at the video. That's the main street in Loch Keld, isn't it, Professor? I recognise it. So, what's wrong with Mr. Hodgson? Yes, it's Loch Keld. The cameras identify themselves over here, he pointed. Farmers Way, Loch Keld number 3. And what's wrong with Jory Hodgson is he's alive. He should have been far too weak to stand up by now. Nothing's happening to him. I need to know what we did wrong. So, when do I start investigating? You've already started. Get everyone and everything together tomorrow morning. Make sure you check your email because you're running the show. Well, Professor, I'm touched by the faith you have in me, but this is an emergency, Horatio. You are quite likely the best mathematician in Scotland. Find the problem. Fix it. Stop it happening again and you can bath in modesty later on. I fully intend to, said Horatio. I shall be more modest than you or anybody else can imagine. One other thing. The Professor thought for a moment. This is absolutely secret. At least until you fix the problem. Understand? Yes, Professor. Nobody is going to buy a product that doesn't work.